What a great and glorious God we serve. Let me try that again. We're working on it. We're working on it. This is audience participation time. What a great and glorious God we serve. Amen. No doubt. You know, with all that is provided for us, with all that the Lord has made available for us, the fact that we would ever get out of bed and have anything other than a smile on our face baffles me. I'm guilty myself. Believe it or not, there are times when I wake up and I put my feet on the floor and I think, I don't really want to do this today. I mean, not on Sunday, of course, but there are days. There are days when it happens. It's usually a day where there's pain before I get out of bed. That's understandable. Some of you know what I'm talking about, if not most of you. But then there's other days where I know what's on my calendar and I know what is in front of me and I go, I really don't want to do this today. And there's days like that. But I really do believe, as much as I fight it personally, and each of you probably fights it, that there is a reason for us to be content. Content with everything that is before us and everything that we will run into during the day. Have you realized this yourself? I mean, I read that Paul said that he had learned what it was to be content in all circumstances, whether it be good or bad, whether he be rich or poor, whether he be free or slave. In all things, he learned what it meant to be content. Now, I struggle with that a little bit because I can't imagine that you're on a boat and the next thing you know, you're on the shore because your ship has wrecked in the middle of the night and you had to swim for your life, hoping to find a shore to crawl up on, and to wake up from that and go, today's going to be a great day. I don't think that's what contentment really is. See, in my mind, when I read Webster's, that's what it says, that to be content means you're happy with everything, no matter what. And I don't think that happy no matter what is a real thing that we can obtain. I think it's something that we have to work at. It's not something that, let me try this. Let me try an informal survey and see what kind of results I get. How many of you have had a perfect life where nothing ever went wrong and you always look forward to every day? None of you. Not a single one. I think the only way we get an answer that way is if we asked, somebody who wasn't able to speak yet. Only a little baby has that ability to say, everything has gone exactly as planned. And even at that, babies get hungry, tired, and wet. And they don't like their circumstances. But you know what? When I'm hungry, tired, or wet, I don't like my circumstances either. I mean, rained on. Now, I see where your minds are going. After standing out in the rain for, how many hours did we stand in the rain? Oh, well, 2 hands. 7 hours. But she's got 5 back there. I feel like an auctioneer. I'll take, well, yeah, there's that. But it wasn't raining the whole time. But for the majority of the time, there was just this light, irritating drizzle last night. And as excited as we were to be able to talk to the community, there were moments where we were just like, I'm wet. And I'd rather not be. For a period of time, I held an umbrella over Pastor Samantha as she talked to other people. And after doing that for about 30 minutes, I thought, I'd rather be wet. Because holding an umbrella for that period of time, it's no better than being wet. Usually you hold an umbrella for max 2 minutes, getting from one place to another. But to just stand there is a different story. Now, I didn't want her to have to hold it, so somebody needed to. but then how would you like to just be wet? And I asked her that question. I said, at this point, I don't feel that we're gaining as much advantage from the umbrella as we are from just standing here being wet. Because, quite frankly, the umbrella came out late and we were already wet before we were standing under it. So there wasn't much advantage to be had. Now, I tell you all of that to tell you that today I want to open up what I believe are the keys to contentment. And I believe we find that in a passage in Psalm 131. So I'll give you a few minutes to find that passage. And what I want to tell you is that I was playing back in my mind, trying to think of a time where contentment would be easily shown. And I remembered an episode of the Andy Griffith Show that I watched. Anybody remember? I know nobody over there knows what I'm talking about. So I remember this one episode where a preacher from New York City had come to give a message. Back when, TV, they could do that. Only on the Andy Griffith Show could you bring a pastor in the middle of the episode to preach. Anyway, I won't get to that. So the pastor comes in and he says his message was, we're way too busy. We rush, and we never take time to slow down and enjoy life. Quite interesting that he was giving this message in Mayberry. But he's giving this message in Mayberry, and they were inspired by it. So they got busy and they built a bandstand, and they found their old band uniforms, and people drug out their instruments, and they were going to have a band, and they were going to have some music, and they began to practice and get ready. And what they quickly realized that they were so busy trying to relax that they were driving themselves crazy. And I think too many times we get to that position where we work so hard to relax that we don't. I think you see this most if you go to Disney World. One of Rebecca and I's favorite thing to do, and this is going to sound really cruel, but you got to follow me here. We enjoy the last third of the day at Disney World because our kids have learned that we're going to stay as long as we're going to stay, and we're going to leave when we leave, and that's just how it is. And they don't complain and they don't balk. But here's the thing, they learned that from us living in Orlando and having season passes and going so often that it just didn't matter if we stayed or left. Most kids at Disney World have not learned that lesson. And that's what we enjoy, watching the end of the day meltdown as children wail because they're never, ever, ever going to see Mickey Mouse again. And they're never going to get an opportunity to shop on Main Street ever again. And they've got these balloons that light up at night, and they're never going to see those again. As these kids are being drugged by their wrist out to the car, and the parents have just had it. It's enough already. And Rebecca and I will look at each other at that moment and we say, this is the happiest place on earth. See, we've learned what contentment is. That knowing that we have more opportunities, whether they be good or bad, we have more opportunities to enjoy whatever God puts in front of us. Now, when I talk about contentment, I'm not talking about the kind where everything is peaceful and quiet and happy. I'm talking about accepting what God has given you. I'm talking about the kind of contentment that comes from activity, that comes from less than peaceful circumstances, the kind that will travel with you, a contentment that will be with you through whatever happens. That is completely different than the kind that requires a beach, a breeze, and a drink with an umbrella. Oh, really? Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Nobody's saying they know what I'm talking about. I've been on that vacation where the pineapple drink comes with a little umbrella, and it doesn't have to be alcoholic. Oh, I see what happened there. Some of you were thinking, oh, the pastor's talking about going to the beach and drinking. No, I'm talking about just relaxing, to turn everything off and just look out to the ocean and listen to the waves come. There's something very peaceful and serene about that moment. You know, I prefer looking out the balcony of a cottage in the mountains. But some people prefer the beach. Pastor Rebecca is one of those people that prefers the beach. Now, what I found out when I took her on a cruise is that she likes to be on the beach side looking out, not on the water side looking in. She has a little issue with that, being in the middle of the water with nothing to stand on if something happens. But today I just kind of want to bring you around to a contentment that saves you thousands and thousands of dollars and doctor's visits and pills and potions, and gets you to a place where you just enjoy life. It's attainable for each of us. Let's look at our passage here. Everybody find it now? My intro was about 8 minutes longer than it needed to be, I think. Let's look at the passage together. My heart is not proud, Lord. My eyes are not haughty. I do not concern myself with great matters or things too wonderful for me. But I have calmed and quieted myself. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I am content. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, both now and forevermore. This psalm is a psalm of ascent. It was announced, spoken in rhythm by the people of Israel as they traveled to Jerusalem. They used this psalm to remind themselves that they need not be overly prideful or overly boastful, that they be content in their situations, that they not drive so hard to be what they thought they should be, that they couldn't be what they ought to be because they never were what they couldn't be. Anybody want to write that down? Yeah, you'll have to listen to the video later on. I can't do that again. What they were trying to say is that wherever I go, wherever He leads me, I will be content. There's a big difference between wherever I go and wherever He leads me. Do you know the difference? He pays the way when you go His way. When you go your own way, you've got to pay full fare. It's full price. There's no discounts, no deals. You got to pay your own way, and it's expensive. And then when you decide that you're ready to go His way, the way back costs twice as much than the way there. Now, I know that all of you have lived such perfect lives that you don't know what I'm talking about, having to pay your way back. So let me tell you that when I went through it, what it cost me was all the friends that I thought were really my friends, to get to a place where all the people that I thought were my enemies were actually my friends. Where I had to tell all the people that had done me wrong when I was doing my own thing that they were right all along. It's quite the pie to swallow as you realize that your pride is exactly what caused you to be where you are. See, this song of ascent is quite the dangerous psalm, because you're proclaiming something to God when you say this, that if you don't really mean it, you should probably keep it to yourself. I knew of a guy that for years would not sing the lyrics to "Wherever He leads, I will go," because he didn't really mean it. He would hum the words of the hymn because he didn't want to lie with his song. Now, in fairness to that story, I also have a friend that he would never sing the song "Take My Life and Let It Be," but he would replace the words. He would say, "Take my wife and let me be." Not my words. But if you don't mean it, there's no sense saying it. Many times, and this is really a dangerous comment, but I heard another pastor say it, it's not my words. He would say, Christians don't tell lies, they come to church and sing them. Now think about that for a moment. Many times that could be true. That we come to church with our heart a mess, upside down, and we sing, all I need is Jesus, when you're thinking, what I need is the electric bill paid and the water bill paid and some groceries. And you boldly sing, all I need is Jesus. We have to be careful with our words because our words mean things. What we say changes the attitude of our heart. What we sing to God is something that we should be holding as the most true statement. Earlier, Pastor Sandy led us in all to Jesus I surrender. And for many of us, that's an old song that we hold dear to our heart. We know the words. We don't need the book. We don't need the screen. We just need the tune to start because we have heard it all of our lives. And we can boldly sing that, but we have a problem boldly living it. We're okay singing it, but living it becomes something completely different. So let me take you to this place, if you'll go with me today, and I'll make this easy on you note takers. I see your pens are ready to go, and you're thinking, is he ever going to get to the message? No, I'm not going to. I've got till 7 o'clock tonight to finish this up, so here we go. Did anybody bring a snack? No? I'm getting corrected over here. I've got till 5:30 because we have to go to another place. So, follow me along with this. The first step to contentment, humility. And I hear a groan across the room. Listen to what David says. He says, Lord, my heart is not haughty. My heart is not haughty. What he's saying is, I don't have an inflated sense of importance. I don't need to be pampered. I don't need to be right. I need to be humble. And for David to say that he was humble is a big deal. I mean, it's not like he was a shoe shine boy in the palace. He was the king, and not just any king, but the anointed king. The man after God's own heart, the only man ever to be proclaimed as a man after God's own heart. And he says, my heart is not haughty. Humility is something that we have to grab a hold of and yank down out of the sky and say, this is going to be who I am. And not in a way that we would say, I'm so humble. You know, I had a guy tell me one time, he said, I'm the most humble person you're ever going to meet. And I said, I don't think so. Because if he was telling me that, he already was not. I'm the most humble person you're ever going to meet. Nope. Guarantee that's not true. It would, well, I'll skip that. See, the reason that David was so humble is because even though he knew that he was a man after God's own heart, even though he knew that he was anointed to be king, David always kept the humility of being a humble shepherd boy. No matter what happened, he could always take his mind and his heart back to the days of keeping the sheep. And keeping the sheep is the worst job. You may not know this, but sheep are known for being incredibly stupid. They just go wherever they want to go, and they need to be corrected. There's a reason that the shepherd carries a big stick. to address the sheep in the direction they should go. Also, sheep smell awful. Leave your favorite wool garment out in the rain for 30 days and then bring it into your house and hang it in your living room. This is the job of the shepherd. Isn't that nice? David could always go back to that place where he was the servant of his father keeping the sheep. I tried to come up with a modern day comparison to where I believe David was at. And the closest I could come to is Billy Graham. Billy Graham, the greatest evangelist of our time, anytime he was ever interviewed, he just sounded like an old farm boy. No matter what was going on, no matter how many thousands of people had made commitments, they interview him after one of those services. He's just the humble farm boy from North Carolina. Just doing what God tells me to do. I believe that's where David was. I'm just doing what God tells me to do. Now, David made mistakes and he messed up, and man, did he break every book, every code, everything that you could possibly do, all in a span of about 12 days. But David came back to God and said, I have sinned against the Most High. Now, he didn't do it at first. Somebody had to confront him about it. But don't we often need that too? We need somebody to kind of get in our face and say, hey, I saw what you did there. You kind of messed it up, didn't you? We don't like it. I mean, nobody likes that. Maybe some of you do. But I don't like that. I would just rather everybody continue believing that I'm perfect, like all of you do. No? Oh, wow. See, when Jesus walked the planet, the only person who was actually worthy of all praise and glory and honor, when he walked the earth, he took and wrapped a towel around himself and washed the feet of the people who were there to serve him. What does that say about us? Because I don't think any of us are willing to stand up today and shout that we're better than Jesus, right? Whew. I was concerned how that one might go. Just you. Jesus, being able to command them to do whatever he desired, instead said, I didn't come here to be served. Instead, I didn't come to be served. I came to serve. Tongue twisters today. Jesus said this, and what he was describing for us was a life of simplicity. Most of us have complicated lives, and they're only complicated because of our own undoing. We schedule so many things in our day, we plan so many activities that we leave so very little time for margin. When I say margin, what I mean is if I have an appointment that is an hour drive away, I like to leave 2 hours before I have to be there. I like to be able to arrive in the city that I'm going to meet somebody and be able to relax and focus on what I'm going to be doing while I'm there. And that is a stark difference from how I used to organize my life. I used to slide in sideways to everything, walk into a training session, never have read the book, and walk up and look at the page and start talking. It's a dangerous way to live your life. I found myself reading in public a lot more than I should have. But today I lead a life that allows for margin so that if something happens, it's okay. Yeah, now we leave room for Jesus to do things in our life that before we hurried past because our schedule said we had to do this or do that. I run into people almost every day who tell me, I'd love to do the whole church thing, but I'm just too busy. And I say to almost everybody who tells me that if you're too busy to do the church thing, you're probably just too busy. That if we don't leave room for margin, we will never find a simple life. A simple life is not walking around in a state of fog that you don't notice what's going on. It's organizing your life in such a way that there will be time for other things. There's a period of time, and this happens to me at least once a week, where Rebecca goes to pick up the children, and then she comes home and she'll tell me the children are home. She sends me a message, says the children are home. And I shut the books down, close the door, turn the lights off, and walk home. And spend the rest of the evening there. No matter what's going on here, whatever it is, it can wait. Because my time with the family ranks higher. I don't mean that to be disrespectful to anybody here. If you ever call me between the hours of 3 and 8, you're probably going to talk to voicemail. It's very unlikely that I'll answer the phone. Because I've organized my life in such a way that those 5 hours are for my family. And I strive diligently to keep that a minimum of 5 days a week. And I think that changes the way we do life together. Because we don't have to question, what's going on here, what's going on there. There's something about sitting down at the table and having discussions at the end of the day to say, just how did the day go? And we take that time and leave it wide open. So that if by chance one of you had an emergency that 911 couldn't handle and only the pastor could handle, I have that time open in my calendar. But I'll warn you, I prefer that you call 911 if you have an emergency. Because I believe that if we've lived our life in a simple manner and addressed our life towards Christ in a way that He can do whatever He needs to do, you've already got everything in place. Even the most grave disaster in your life, you're prepared for no matter which way it goes. And you really don't need the pastor to step in at that point. You need to just be prepared. The simple life is a life that can discard the words, "Don't bother me, I'm busy." The simple life doesn't spend a whole bunch of time trying to figure out the things that aren't for you to understand. And we have a great big God who has taken extreme measures to make sure that we would know through the words of the Bible, through the life of Jesus, the creation of His that we are to enjoy, and the revelation from the Holy Spirit. And yet, many, many things He reveals in secrecy because we can't comprehend it. And I'm saying today that we probably shouldn't try to comprehend it. That we take the information that He's already made available to us and that we meditate on that. Before we understand the things that are great mysteries to us, we might try to understand all the things that have already been revealed. I would say that if you're worrying about the number of angels that can fit on a head of a pin before you know all of the Scripture, you've probably made a mistake. You've got your priorities backwards, and you're not trying to live a simple life. Things happen that we're never going to be able to understand. We deal with this on a regular basis. Why do bad things happen to good people? Well, it's not for you to know. It's His plan being unveiled. And I find that more often than not, if I'm willing to just walk through the path that He's laid out before me, that I will just walk in faith, all of those things that I find so difficult to understand, they don't matter. They don't matter. I don't need to know why a volcano explodes. I mean, I happen to know why, but I don't have to know that. If you come across knowledge and it benefits you in some ways, by all means, come across knowledge. But if you're chasing it and chasing it and chasing it to the point where you can't pay attention to the people around you, you miss the point. You let it just fly right by you. The third point that I want you to get today is that we want to live a life that's under control. Self-control. I saw not everybody, but I saw a large majority of you make a little sad face at me because you think I'm going to talk for 30 or 40 minutes about self-control. And I can. But I'm not supposed to. See, there was a period of time where Pastor Rebecca and I, we were new parents. And Ian selfishly demanded that he eat 5 times a day. He was kind of a little pig. And he demanded to be fed in the middle of the night. Demanded it. He just screamed bloody murder. And Rebecca would get up and go feed him. Wasn't my job. I'll let you figure that out on your own. But she did this and did this and did this. And then finally we had this conversation. We said, if he's ever going to sleep through the night, we have to stop going to him in the middle of the night. Now, the first night that she let him cry, this only lasted for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. She's like, I got to go get him. Because we want to give our children everything that they desire. But what we realized is that if he didn't cry and realize that we weren't coming to his rescue, he would always cry and demand us come to his rescue. So we had to allow him to cry that out and figure it out. And there was about 3 nights that were just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I threatened to send Rebecca to a hotel so that he could get through that process. And after some time, he got through it. And he began to sleep through the night. And as a result, Rebecca got to sleep through the night. And she was happier, and he was happier, and rested. That meant he stopped taking naps in the middle of the day. She had to deal with that too. But David addresses this and says that he is like a weaned child with his mother. A weaned child with his mother can just be content, to just be held. See, that's the life of self-control. See, we have all the opportunities that life allows for in front of us. We have the ability to chase our passions, and we have the ability to be controlled by all kinds of different substances. We have the ability to have whatever it is that we want whenever we want it. But if we will take the time to learn how to go without more than occasionally, we can control that. And no longer does that hunger or that thirst or that desire run our life. See, when I had some less popular addictions, I'm addicted to food, and you all know that. But when I had less popular addictions, because we're okay with people being addicted to food, that's why I say that. But when I had less popular addictions, they controlled my life. Because I would go to work and I would give my full effort at work, but the whole time my mind was on something else, and I needed to get out of work as soon as I could to get to the next thing, the next fix, the next whatever. And it controlled my life. But when I put that under control, I was able to say, I don't need that. I don't need that controlling me. And that's when I was able to fully surrender. When the things that controlled me didn't anymore. That's when I was able to know that God had full control. Where I was able to sing, I surrender all, and mean it. This is the challenge for all of us. That the reason that we hold on to the things that we hold on to is because those things in some way make us happy. And what we miss is that there's a whole big happier available in a surrendered life that is content. to be able to say, no matter what this day has, I'm going to take it and I'm going to enjoy it. Even if this day has something that appears to be negative, I am choosing to enjoy it because I know that the work of my Father is being done through the course of this day. So our prayer should be, Lord, fill me with the spirit of self-control so that I can find the type of contentment that David and Paul had. I tell you, that's a dangerous prayer, because to find that contentment of self-control, you're going to have to be tempted. And possibly you're going to have to be tempted a lot. Tempted not to check out when somebody's talking to you. Tempted to not hold on to the truths of the Bible. Tempted to walk your own way. And then you have to have the ability, with the help of the Holy Spirit, to say, I don't need these things. I need this thing. I need these words. I need this life. This is the life we strive for, and we forget that it's absolutely attainable. This life of surrender, this life of hope, that whatever may come, I am content. Pray with me. Lord, today we come before you with a hope in our heart that is founded in your promises. A hope that says, I can endure the hardships of this world if they mean that I get to stand with you in eternity. That the future life matters so much more than the present life, that I not be focused on this life, that I keep my eyes solely on you. Lord, today, help us all to live the kind of life that focuses completely on you, that is based in humility and self-control. Lord, we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.